Hi everybody, it's me, as always, your host, Gambit896, and I am back with another video review for you guys. Today I'll be reviewing a rather obscure book, and that is Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol. Now, this is published by Vertigo, as you might be able to see in the top, in the bottom right corner. It should say the Vertigo imprint down there. Basically, what this book is, it's a really obscure kind of superhero book. So this first volume of Doom Patrol is called Crawling from the Wreckage. It's written by Grant Morrison and it's illustrated by Richard Case and Doug Braithwaite, I believe is how you pronounce it. Like I said, this is published by Vertigo and it reprints the first 6 issues of when Grant Morrison took over the book. So we have issues 19 to 25. Now, this was my first exposure to Doom Patrol, and I thought that, I've kind of been getting into more writers' works lately, such as Grant Morrison and Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction and a bunch of other people, really. I just thought I'd give this a shot. So the story starts out with the team of Doom Patrol is in disarray because many members are, many members have either retired or they are, they've suffered injuries, so they've left. One member of the old Doom Patrol team is in a coma. A few members have been killed. So it's basically about the reforming of the Doom Patrol team and basically the team sort of comes together and fights the bad guys, really. Now that sounds really generic and sort of similar to a superhero story, but I'll expand on this in a minute. Here we have a really great cover of the first issue, which is issue 19. Apologies. I'm really fond of these old school kind of old DC covers. This isn't really an old book. This was published. This was published a fair few years ago. This was published in 2004. This first volume. There's another 5 volumes after this. I think it's either another 5 or 6 volumes in total of Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol. Anyway, so we get introduced to the fact that the old team is in disarray, and they're led by a wheelchair-bound individual by the name of Chief. And we also meet some of the new members. So we meet our main kind of story perspective character is Cliff Steele, who is otherwise known as Robot Man. So we get his origin and how he became Robot Man in the first place. So here we have some great artwork by I don't know who the artist is on some of these issues, because the artwork is very similar, so I don't want to try and sort of put a name to some of the artwork because I'm not really sure who illustrates it. Hang on, let me see if it's Richard. It's illustrated by Richard Case and Doug Braithwaite, so I don't want to try and differentiate between the two artists, really, because I'm not really sure who draws which issues. We also meet a character of Joshua, who is another. He's not a member of Doom Patrol per se, but he's kind of a friend of Cliff Steele's or Robot Man's, and he can harness kinetic energy. So that's a pretty cool ability. We also meet another member of the team. Just bear with me and I'll find out what her name is. Kay Chalice, or Crazy Jane, or as she calls herself, Crazy Jane as most people call her. She suffers from multiple personality disorder, and when some of these alternate personalities manifest, some of these are actually pretty cool. Not that I'm being detrimental or trying to be offensive to anybody who does suffer with multiple personality disorder. So I'm just clearing that up. We also meet another member of the team called Rebus, who is a half man, half woman, and I mean by that is pretty weird, because here we have him in his kind of his man form, and then in another panel we have him turning it, or him or her or whichever, turning into a woman. Rebus can also fly and can kind of project his spirit, if you will, from his body, so he's kind of like a supernatural element kind of character. We also meet some of the minions of the main villain of this story arc, called Scissor Men, and I mean literally they carry around scissors. I'm not joking. And they come out with some really, really random dialogue, and you're not really sure what they're trying to say. So it is kind of like a comedy kind of element with these superhero minions, supervillain minions, if you will. Here's a great double page spread of some of the artwork. I'm not sure again who draws this, but this is kind of like an alternate reality kind of a superhero book. So like I said, this is kind of like an alternate reality kind of a thing. And the best thing, or the best sort of comparison I can make, and I'll show you, I'll go on to that in a second, but here's another one of Crazy Jane's personalities manifested, which is pretty cool. And, you know, there's some pretty good action scenes against the Scissor Men with this personality. I believe this one is called Black Annis or something, so that's pretty cool. We also meet, we meet the main villain later on, but I'll go on to that in a second. Let me see if I can find another of... oh, by the way, Rebus can not only fly, but he can also, like I said, project his spirit, and he can teleport as well. So, or transport them to different locations, if you will. So here's a top panel of Rebus actually completing a teleportation. So, like I said, Clip is trying to reform the Doom Patrol team, and at the same time the team is trying to deal with this kind of alternate reality kind of a threat. Here's another example of one of Crazy Jane's personalities, with, I believe it looks like a sun for the head, and she can project like sun rays from the sun and basically blast their enemies away with them. So they're pretty cool. The alternate reality kind of storyline, I can best sort of, it's not really a great comparison because it's kind of similar, but it's kind of not. It's kind of similar to Volume 5 of Neil Gaiman's Sandman series called A Game of You, where a character in the story, her dreams start to bleed into reality and create kind of an alternate dream reality, if you will. Now, the reality in this book is a fictional reality that a group of people have written this book, and basically the book has sort of start to come to life and sort of bleed into reality. We also meet another member of the Doom Patrol team as well, Dorothy. Let me just check because I don't want to get the name wrong. Just bear with me 1 second, guys. Dorothy Spinner, who without thinking about it, she can summon monsters and demons, and at the same time, all she needs to do is to make them go away, is literally shout at them. So that's a pretty cool power. Let me see if I can find an example of when she does this. Here we are. Here's an example of one of Dorothy's monsters that she's accidentally summoned without thinking about it. And then, as you can see from the bottom panel, she's shouting at it and making it go away, which is pretty cool. Like I said, this is kind of like an oddball kind of superhero team. So yeah, we got some pretty weird people and some pretty weird kind of abilities. Here we meet the main villain of this story arc, called Red Jack, who is there's a really interesting reference in here to Jack the Ripper, who was a serial killer during I believe in the Victorian era. I'm not really sure when the actual era was, I should say. Again, we get a really great kind of action scene with Robot Man going up against Red Jack, and we also get Rebus going up against him, as you can see on the top panel just there. So yeah, like I said, this is a really kind of weird, obscure superhero team. They're not like any of the other kind of superhero teams, such as like the Justice League or the Green Lanterns or Batman and Robin or the Bat Family and Batman or Bruce Wayne. You know, like I said, it's really kind of an oddball kind of superhero team. Again, here's some more action from Red Jack and Rebus's kind of spirit form, if you will. Overall, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really good read. And then, towards the end of the story, we get Dorothy Spinner's backstory as well in the final issue. And there's a bit of action with Dorothy at the end. So yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this. I'd give this probably a 4 out of 5, actually. I really, really enjoyed this. So yeah, if you're a fan of Grant Morrison, if you're a fan of really obscure kind of superhero teams, and if you're a fan of Vertigo books, and kind of, if you like the more the art style in this kind of harkens back to like the older, I wouldn't say I'd say the older comics, like from the 70s and 80s. I mean, I haven't really read much of the stuff from the 70s or the 80s, but it's not like anything I've seen in kind of modern day. I say modern day, like the more recent comics from like. I mean, I started getting into comics about 3 years ago. So from 3 years ago up until now, I haven't seen an art style kind of like this in a comic book that I've actually read, or a graphic novel anyway. So yeah, I highly recommend this. And I also recommend you get into Neil Gaiman's Sandman run, because Sandman is my second favourite comic book series of all time. It's an absolutely fantastic fantasy. It's part fantasy, part superhero, part horror, part supernatural. Well, part supernatural horror. Yeah, it's just a really, really fantastic series. In fact, I'll put a link to the first volume of Neil Gaiman's Sandman in the description, and I'll put a link to a really good interview with Neil Gaiman on the original pitch for Sandman. It's quite a long interview. It's about roughly an hour and a half long, but it's a really, really good interview, and I'll put a link to that as well. And also, there's been a recent development with Sandman and Neil Gaiman that he announced from San Diego Comic-Con, which he will be doing a prequel story to the Sandman series. So I'll put a link to that announcement video on YouTube in the description, and I'll also put a link to the first volume of Doom Patrol as well. So, like I said, if you're a fan of Grant Morrison, if you're a fan of Vertigo books, if you like really obscure, odd superhero books, you know, I highly recommend you pick this up and give it a read. I really, really enjoyed it. So until next time, guys, this has been Gambit896 with my review of Doom Patrol. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you've read this story and you want to give me your own thoughts and opinions, put a comment below in the comment section. And as always, if this is your first time here, by all means, if you want to see more from me, click that subscribe button at the top of the screen if you want to see more from me in the near future. So until next time, this is Gambit896 signing off, and I'm saying I'll see you guys later. Take care, guys.